Now here I am relaxing at South Jersey Marina. Well, how did I get here from the Chesapeake Bay? Well, I took the C&D in Delaware Bay. And if you're cruising the Chesapeake Bay and don't use Delaware Bay, you're missing out on a lot of great destinations, such as Cape May, Atlantic City, Ocean City, Maryland, New York, and many more. And for those of you on the Atlantic coast, if you're not using Delaware Bay, you're missing out on some great cruising grounds on Chesapeake Bay. Now, there's a few things you should know about Delaware Bay before heading out. And as with any cruise, pertinent mariners will pay attention to the weather, the seaworthiness of your vessel, and your boating skills. Now, Delaware Bay is a major waterway for commercial and recreational boaters, traveling between the Chesapeake Bay and the Atlantic Ocean. Now, I use the C&D Canal as my starting and stopping point for the Delaware River and Delaware Bay. So from the C&D, the bay is approximately 52 nautical miles and has around 158 nautical miles of shoreline. Now, there are a few anchorages or recreational harbors along our coastline. And due to the inverted V or pear shape, narrow areas, and irregular depths, the bay can become quite choppy. Regardless, if you're cruising in a sail or powerboat, it's advisable to travel with the tide as much as you can. You know, during maximum ebb, the tide and current can be 2 to 3 knots, and the tide ranges 5 to 7 feet. And on a flood tide with a strong southerly wind, the chop can become a little steep. Now, when entering or exiting the C&D Canal, you should be cautious of, on the southeast end of it is a jetty that extends out, and at high tide that can be submerged or close to being submerged. Now, it is marked on the end with a green tower that's oscillating, so just pay attention to that area. And the bay is rather narrow from the C&D, about 22 nautical miles south. From this point south, the bay is fairly open. South is Lewis and Breakwater Harbor. This is about the only decent anchorage on Delaware Bay. And the main anchorage area has a mean low water of 7 feet. And when entering and exit this area, be aware that the Cape May Lewis ferry course is fairly close to that breakwater wall. There's also another breakwater wall off of the North Point. Now, there's ample room to head to the ocean between the Cape and this breakwater wall, with a mean low water of about 19 feet, and then it just dives right down to 78. Now, Lewis doesn't have a lot of marina facilities, so I recommend Cape May for your overnight accommodations. There are no anchorage basins or anchorages allowed in the canal. However, Cape May Harbor has ample anchorage areas and full-service marinas, restaurants, and many attractions. Delaware Bay is your gateway to a lot of great cruising and fun, exciting destinations. Don't let all that exaggerated stories keep you from enjoying and using it to get to these destinations. And whether you're new to the bay or an old salt, please don't take the bay for granted. Just as you shouldn't take any cruise for granted. With proper planning and prudent judgment, you'll enjoy your cruise on Delaware Bay. And I'd like to recap just a couple of things for you here. You know, much of the bad rap that Delaware Bay gets is because it is a long run for most pleasure boaters. There are no sea monsters in Delaware Bay. It's also advisable to monitor Channel 13 due to the commercial traffic. And because it is a long cruise, it's advisable to monitor the Weather Channel also. Try to travel outside the shipping lanes, but be mindful of some of the shallow and shoal areas. And toward the mouth of the bay, just keep in mind that the Cape May Lewis ferry runs back and forth throughout the day. And try to time your cruise as much as possible with the tides.